Okay, let's dive into something pretty much universal workplace conflict.
Right.
You know, those disagreements, tensions, sometimes just outright disputes. Seems like they happen everywhere.
Absolutely. Different goals, different people, limited resources.
Yeah.
It's almost unavoidable, isn't it?
It really is. And, well, usually the person who's supposed to sort of step in is the supervisor, right?
Yeah, they're often the first line of defense or intervention.
Which leads to the big question, I guess. What's the actual impact when they do step in? I mean, are they effective? Does it help?
That's exactly what we're digging into today.
Okay.
And we're using some really interesting research as our guide here. A study from Dr. Jone Pearce at UC Irvine's Merage School of Business.
Ah.
And her co-author, Dr. Kimberly McCarthy at Cal State San Marcos, provided some inspiration too. It's published in the International Journal of Conflict Management.
Got it. So our mission for this deep dive, then, is to really unpack what they found. What did this research actually show about the supervisor's role? And, what does it mean for solving disputes and, frankly, keeping people from quitting?
Well, and what's quite interesting about this specific study is its focus. Lots of research talks about conflict generally.
Sure.
But this one zooms right in on the supervisor intervening directly and, crucially, the training part.
The training needed for that intervention.
Yeah, that piece gets missed a lot in the wider discussion.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. Where did they get this data? Sounds specific.
It really was. They used a pretty substantial data set, actually, from the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA.
The FAA. Wow. Okay, so air traffic controllers.
That's right.
You couldn't really pick a more high-pressure job, could you?
Not easily, no. Which definitely adds weight to the findings, Conflicts in that setting.
Yeah.
They have real consequences.
I bet. And the scale. How many people are we talking about?
It was impressive. Over 5,000 employees.
5,000.
Yeah, and the data came from annual surveys the FAA collected. So not just a one-off snapshot.
Wow. Okay, so annual surveys, 5,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you a proper long-term view, doesn't it? Especially in such a high-stress field. That's rare data.
It is. And when you look at data on that scale, something pretty powerful comes through about what happens when supervisors actually get involved.
Okay, I'm listening. What's the first big takeaway? What did they see when supervisors mediated?
Well, the main finding was pretty clear-cut, actually. Supervisors who actively mediated conflicts, among their direct reports, they got results, real results.
Results like things just felt calmer or something more concrete.
More concrete. The study found conflicts were significantly more likely to be resolved.
Okay, that makes sense.
But here's the kicker. The employees involved in those mediated conflicts, they were also more likely to stay with the FAA.
Hold on. So the supervisor stepping in to mediate didn't just fix the argument. It actually influenced whether people quit their jobs.
That's what the data showed, a direct link.
Wow. That's not just about smoothing over tension then. That's hitting the bottom line, retention. That's a big deal.
It really is. It suggests this kind of intervention isn't just, a nice to have for workplace harmony. It has a tangible impact on keeping people.
Okay, so active intervention works, it helps solve problems, and it keeps people on board. Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But, well, if it's so effective, why isn't every supervisor brilliant at this all the time?
And that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? That question leads right into the study's other major finding, the skills gap.
A skills gap? You mean they just don't know how?
Pretty much. The study really highlighted that despite intervention being effective, many supervisors just aren't equipped for it. There's a great quote from Dr. Pearce, something like, most supervisors are not trained in how to deal with conflict or how to mediate.
Yeah.
They're not clinical psychologists.
That really hits it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We sort of expect managers to just know how to handle these really tricky interpersonal things.
Right. But the reality, according to the study, is that the actual training often isn't there.
Even for, basic conflict resolution techniques, things that are pretty well established.
Exactly. Those skills aren't always standard in leadership development.
Which makes the implications for organizations pretty stark, I imagine.
Unavoidable, really.
Okay, so let's connect those dots. Finding 1, intervention works, helps keep people. Finding 2, many supervisors lack the training. So what's the study telling organizations they need to do?
Well, the conclusion is pretty direct. It builds a really strong case for organizations to step up and invest in training.
Training specifically for this?
Yes. Programs designed to give supervisors actual conflict resolution skills. Dr. Pearce noted that a lot of conflict research talks about the problems, but kind of skips over the practical step of training the supervisors who are right there on the front lines.
And are we talking about sending managers back to school for psychology degrees? Or something more achievable?
Much more achievable. They specifically suggest that even simple mediation training could make a significant difference.
Simple mediation training, so basic practical skills.
Exactly, focusing on the how-to. And the potential payoff, according to the study, is huge.
Right, you mentioned reduced turnover.
Reduced turnover, which is costly, and just generally better workplace morale, healthier environment overall.
Okay, so pulling it all together, the study's evidence seems pretty compelling. Supervisors can be really key in resolving conflict.
And it's a big but.
Only if they have the skills.
Precisely. Only when they're actually equipped with the right tools to mediate effectively, it's not automatic.
And Dr. Pearce's final takeaway, her conclusion from the research, sounds like a clear call to action.
It really is. She basically says the research demands a shift in organizational focus toward conflict resolution training for supervisors.
So framing that training not as some optional soft skill thing, but as truly essential.
As a critical step, I think was the phrase. A critical step for sustainable conflict management.
And for maintaining healthy work environments. It links those day-to-day manager actions directly to the overall health of the organization.
Makes sense, doesn't it? The supervisor is right there, closest to the team dynamics. Give them the skills.
And it ripples outwards.
Exactly.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, the listener, the core takeaway from this deep dive seems clear. Your supervisor's ability to actually step into a conflict and, crucially, whether they've had even some basic training in mediation skills, it matters a lot.
Yeah, it has a measurable impact.
Directly affecting if disputes get solved and, maybe even more surprisingly, whether people stick around on their jobs. It's not about expecting managers to be, natural-born peacemakers.
No, it's about giving them practical, learnable skills.
Which definitely makes you think, doesn't it?
It does, and it raises a fascinating, wider question, I think. If simple mediation training for supervisors can have this kind of impact, well, what other fundamental skills are we maybe overlooking?
Skills that, if we actually train managers on them, could significantly improve how workplaces function.
Exactly. And maybe, just to turn that around slightly,
Yeah.
what value could investing in your own basic conflict resolution skills bring to your own interactions day to day, whether you're a supervisor or not?
Definitely something to mull over. Food for thought as you navigate your own work environment.